welcome to the Teaching Together podcast, where we celebrate and share the glows and grows of teacher life. I'm Grace.
And I'm Sierra. Every episode on the podcast, we like to start by sharing a glow or a grow. So I think Grace is really excited to share hers from today, which she was about to tell me, but I said, save it for the episode.
Save it for the pod.
So here we go. Tell us your glow.
Yes, well, we are looking at our conceptual lens for this term is connections. And so we're talking about connections in every subject that we do. And we are also talking about the people at our school that help us in kindergarten. So like the beautiful office ladies and our principal and all that sort of stuff. And I had printed out some pictures just like from staff, like professional photos from last year, and printed them out of some of the teachers and just general staff that help us out, and got the kiddos to draw or write on a Post-it note what they think that person's job is. And it was really cute. There was lots of wholesome stuff, but I had not printed one out for me because, first of all, I hate my who likes their school photo, but I hated mine from last year. And I also was like, well, I mean, they don't need to explore what I do. They know what I do. But it was really cute. Like a bunch of them came up to me and were like, Miss Keen, where's your photo? And I was like, okay, I'll because I had them spread around the room, and so I said, I'll just write my name on the whiteboard, and you can put your Post-it note there if you want. And they just all like drew a bunch of love hearts and said, one of them wrote, Miss Keen loves me. I was like, I do love you. And it was just really wholesome. Some of them wrote, I love you, Miss Keen. It was very, very sweet. And I was just like, this is why, actually, because we were talking about how I'm very tired of kindergarten after 2 years, but this is the stuff that you only get in kindergarten.
Yes.
Maybe in year 1 and 2.
The unashamed just love and doting.
Yes. And I was just describing to Sierra how one of the girls met me at the staff room door right after recess and literally started jumping up and down when she saw me like a little puppy and was like, I was waiting for you, Miss Keen. I missed you. And I'm just like, I'm going to cry. It's so beautiful. Yeah. So at the moment right now, I'm quite loving the appreciation from the children. And yeah, it is nice to build that relationship and know that even though they're little, they actually do value what I do for them. So it's really nice. I mean, they didn't actually write anything down about or draw anything about what I actually do for them. It was just love hearts. And I was like, look, you know what? That's okay. I am feeling the love.
That's very sweet.
Wholesome. But Sarah, glow or grow or both?
Mine is actually both for today. In real time yesterday, my year 12 class had to hand in their major works, which is a highly, I want to say highly stressful. It actually was not. I had this very bizarre calm through the day. It was a chaotic day, but I personally felt calm.
Good.
So I was busy but calm.
Okay.
So I guess a massive glow for me is just that they're done and they've left my hands. They are at the marking center. And, you know, I will eagerly await the results.
How long do they take?
More eagerly than the students. How long do they take? I won't get them. The projects will actually come back relatively quickly, like maybe in 2 or 3 weeks.
Oh.
But I won't get the results until ATAR and HSC results are released in like December or something.
Okay. Yep.
But anyway, so huge glow to have that finished. Sort of feels like a massive milestone. So that's really exciting. But I was sharing with Grace before that my grow also from this same experience is just like a bit better organization and coordination of a massive just hand-in process like that. Like there's so much documentation and paperwork that has to be filled in for all the NESA requirements, and there's actually no reason why I couldn't really do that at least a week ahead of time, if not a little bit more. At least just have like all the student details pre-filled, that kind of thing. Just make the day a little bit less chaotic, and give myself time also to like triple check things that they're right, because I kind of felt like I didn't really have time to do that, and that was making me stressed. So I just want to channel some slightly more ahead of time organization, because inevitably major work hand-ins will be chaotic and stressful every year. And yes, my grow and my takeaway from that is I hope I remember to be more organized next time.
When it comes to this time next year in 2026, Sierra, I will remind you that we had this conversation, and I will tell you it's a week before, even though I won't know that. I'll have to ask you, but I will say, please be organized so that you don't become frazzled, and you will say thank you, Grace, and pass Sierra.
Yes, thank you.
In case you missed it, last episode we talked about the mid-year slump and some statistics on the realities of teacher life. But because we are here to inspire and not depress you, we did provide some, on-brand cheer and some helpful practical strategies to overcome that slump and remind yourself that you actually do enjoy teaching and your why. So if you are feeling particularly slumpy at the moment, please listen to that. We hope there's something in there that can spark a little bit of joy and get you going again.
Today we are going to be spending a little bit of time thinking about a topic that makes every single one of us frazzled, I am sure, despite the fact that we need to, in these moments, channel our confidence and put togetherness, and that is parent-teacher interviews. Ooh, yes. A couple of years ago now, I actually was at a PD where I had the privilege of hearing from a very experienced teacher called Bianca Hewes, and she wrote a book for new graduates called On Teaching, which we will definitely link in the show notes. And she has some fantastic advice for how to manage and stay sane during parent-teacher interviews. So we are going to be tapping into some of her sage advice today and sharing a mix of that and some of our own experiences with you. But first, it's time for tea.
Sierra, what hot beverage are you drinking this evening?
I am just enjoying a trusty old peppermint tea tonight. Helping me also channel the calm. I don't know if this is like an actual thing, but one of my friends told me a few years ago that peppermint tea is really helpful when you're feeling like, when you're just feeling a bit nervy and anxious, and it just helps to like calm your body. And I don't know if it's placebo or not, but it really is often the thing I'll go to when I've been like feeling a bit worked up or stressed. So after a couple of hectic days, that was my choice this evening.
That does sound very calming.
What about you?
Just the act of having a tea in itself is calming.
True.
And I was able to enjoy a tea with a piece of cake in the staff room today.
Oh, that is a treat.
I know. I enjoyed it greatly. And the tea I am currently enjoying is one I've had several weeks in a row now, which is the elderflower and peach, which very sadly has come basically to an end.
I know. We have reached the bottom of the tin.
There's pretty much I think one generous helping left, or maybe two sad helpings, but not enough for a pot even.
Okay. On the topic of a sad helping, I did make myself one of those teas on Sunday in real time when I was working on my assignment, and I was doing the old, teacup trick to try and keep myself motivated. If you don't know what I'm talking about, listen to our last episode. And I actually re-steeped the same leaves because I didn't want to waste it, because I needed more of it and it was nearly gone.
Also talking about a sad helping of tea, my darling, beautiful boyfriend who told me he was tea trained when we first started dating just to impress me, apparently. He's not. I sent a picture to Sierra because it was the saddest helping of tea I've ever seen. It was so beautiful though, but it's literally if you're a tea drinker, you know what I'm talking about. It was basically like a single leaf.
Yes, in the bottom of the strainer.
In the bottom of the strainer. There was nothing else. And and I said to him, what? Thank you so much for making me this tea. But what is this? He was like, I don't know. And I was like, you told me you were tea trained. He's like, well, clearly I was lying. It was so adorable. But it was just so, as a consummate tea drinker, I was like, this is pathetic. What is this? Anyway, it was
the thought
very
that
funny.
counts.
Yes. Okay, let's get into it. How are we going to prepare for interviews without the panic?
Yeah, so I thought it might be helpful for us to recap. So I've been teaching this is my 5th year now, and this is your 2nd year.
It is.
Okay. I thought maybe we could start by having a think about what have been our experiences of parent-teacher interviews so far.
Yeah, I mean, I've only done 4 ever.
Okay. You've done, but that's 4. That's still, yeah, okay. Because you've already done your second lot for the year.
Yeah, we did ours the first week of term 3.
Yeah, outrageous.
And it made me, it just really set the tone of exhaustion for the rest of the term, I have to say.
Yeah.
Halfway through the term. Haven't recovered.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and this is where it is quite helpful that I am a junior school teacher, Sarah's high school, because we can kind of cover a broader scope of parent-teacher interviews. Of course, schools do it differently, but mine is the classic. You get 10 minutes. We're in one of our classrooms. We have 2 teachers, 2 kindy teachers in one kindy classroom, so you're not alone. And yeah, we get 10 minutes. It's a 10-minute slot. And because I'm in kindergarten, about 99% of my parents will book an interview. So I'm basically back to back the entire night. It goes from, I think the first meeting is either at 3:10 or 3:15, which is our final school bell goes at 2:50. So it gives us a bit of time to kind of get organised. Not a whole lot though. I do end up feeling a bit frazzled. And then we have like a half-hour break for dinner. So but usually, I think all 4 nights I've been back to back, no breaks from 3:15 till about, I think dinner is at 5:36 maybe. Back to back for a couple of hours, and then I usually have 1 or 2 breaks after dinner.
Okay.
And then I'm pretty sure my last interview, this most recent round, was scheduled for 7:45 to start, but they ended up getting there early, and I had no one before them. It was a huge wait. And so I was able to I was like, oh, you're here. Thank goodness I don't have to stay here till 8 o'clock at night. But yeah, that's how they go. And I've only taught at the one school. So that's how they all go. And it is exhausting. And I mean, I'm an extroverted introvert. So it just sucks. What's yours like in high school?
Yeah. I have had so many different experiences so far, in the sense that my first 2 years of teaching at the first school I was at, all of our interviews were online. Yeah. I think the first year just because of COVID, and then the second year because the feedback was that parents maybe found it more convenient. So the school I was at the time decided to like maintain that approach. Where I am currently, we have just gone through a shift in the way that we structure our interviews. So previously it was like they'd do maybe 2 year groups a night, like a stage maybe. You might have like year 7 and 8 interviews.
Okay.
And then so across the term, you'd kind of have like 3 or 4 nights.
No.
Depending on things. But they've just changed it this year so that it's kind of like a day of parent-teacher interviews. So students have like a student-free day, like a pupil-free day, or like one day early off on the last day of term or something, and parent-teacher interviews sort of happen from 8 till 4:30 or 5 on that day.
But what if you're a parent and you work till 5? I don't understand how that's supposed to be better.
It's probably, it doesn't work for everyone, for sure.
But I mean, you can, if it's 10 minutes, is yours 10-minute blocks? How long are yours?
Oh, well, in high school, my blocks are 5 minutes.
What?
Yes.
That's enough to say, hi, how are you?
It's, yeah, it's really tricky, which, you know, I think is interesting. And the amount of time that, different schools give, I guess, varies. I personally would like to have a longer slot for, say, my senior students. But I find 5 minutes to be ample enough time to talk about my subject. And maybe parents are probably more concerned about like maths, English, science subjects than they are about my subject, if we're being realistic. But I often find that 5 minutes is enough, potentially even too much sometimes for my junior kids, because I only see them twice a week. It's just like...
Yeah. And I teach my kids everything.
Yeah.
You teach
So
your kids one thing.
You definitely need more time than
yes,
me.
okay. I take back my what?
But it is, yeah. We're going to talk a little bit about timing soon. But I would still say now, this far in, I still feel like such an imposter. It's just one of the hardest things I think I have to do. I'm only just now starting to feel like more comfortable with it. But every time on the day, it's like, it is still so scary. And I think part of it is because I'm not a parent.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I think that actually can make it really hard to relate to some parents. And like, yes, you're still there and you're still the professional and you absolutely have like things of value to say and share, and your opinion is like purposeful and meaningful. But it is so hard, I think, talking to parents as someone who is not a parent. And you just instantly feel like they're looking at you thinking that you're just a child.
Oh, yeah. It's the imposter syndrome is so real. We could do a
So
whole
real.
episode just on that. And maybe we will. But oh my goodness, everything you're saying, I totally agree.
I feel simultaneously just like super experienced and simultaneously still like such a newbie with just who doesn't know anything. But parent teacher is the one thing that I think still makes me feel like, do I know what I'm doing? So different schools, different experiences, different amounts of time, different levels of preparation probably, because you will have to be able to squash a lot more into a 10-minute interview than I can squash into a 5-minute interview. So the way that I prepare for my interviews is probably very different to the way that you prepare for yours.
Yeah.
Do you do a lot of like preparation in advance?
So
Intentionally?
the term 1 interviews are a lot different to term 3 because part of the reason the term 3 interviews were in the first week this year was because they were to speak about the reports that we sent home on the last day of term 2. And in term 1, we don't have any reports. So in term 1, and it's the first time also that I'm meeting a lot of these parents, and it's a lot of their first, if it's their first child, is their first parent-teacher interview ever, as well as a parent. So there's a lot more pressure in a way to prepare specifically for the term 1 interviews. And that really, in kindergarten, involves a lot of work samples because we're not sitting down and doing tests or anything. And a lot of that is kind of checklists. We'll have lists of these are the things we need our kids to be able to do at this point in the year. Can they do them? And so that helps us to raise flags, which again, in term 1, there aren't a whole heap of red flags we're raising because they are 6. Then in term 2, I write their reports based on like more formal assessment data and things. And so I had just done that by the time, and I'd been working on reports all term. And so I had lots more kind of more formal data in my mind ready to go for term 3.
Yeah.
So I did bring along to term 3's interviews some more recent work samples. And I was able to also, I made for myself, or maybe I actually asked ChatGPT just to recommend a kind of scaffold, just to give me somewhere to start, of just 1 page of notes that I could bring in and just quickly read over and refresh my memory on areas of strength and areas of future improvement, basically. And, because they're kindergarten, how they're going socially, that kind of thing. But a lot of that was kind of stored in my brain. And I was able to speak more anecdotally and more informally. But I do have work samples just to kind of back myself up a bit. I mean, I don't want to go in to these interviews on the defense. But there were actually a couple of instances this most recent time where I did have to defend myself. And I was glad I had all this stuff in my brain, but also glad that I had samples of things. It did help that I had work samples there. Yeah.
Yeah. I tend to not. I think maybe the first couple of sets of interviews I did, I probably wrote some more notes more intentionally in advance. But I guess the way that you prepare is going to vary depending on how long you have to have your interview for, whether you are a primary teacher or a high school teacher, and how long you've been teaching them, how well you know them, sort of just off the top of your head. The main way that I will prepare is I will print out my interview list with the student names and photos and things like that. And when off our school system, the way that we can print them, we can have a comment, like a blank column on our sort of printout list. So that's just what I use to tick through my interviews and make sure that I've, met with everyone who's booked in, and then also know that I've got space to take note of anything if anything comes up as a result of the interview, or I might make note if that student has an IEP or something like that. Probably the main way that I would prepare for an interview is go through my class list like that, print it out, reread any IEPs that might be pertinent, because, I know that I've looked through my IEPs. I know that I differentiate in my lessons, but it can be really good to just refresh over those specific elements in case things like that are raised as a part of the discussion. And then I have my Markbook tab open, and I have my Google Classroom tabs open relevant to the classes that I'm singing, so that if there are questions on or comments that need to be made in relation to just submitting of work and keeping up with and sort of general classroom engagement, and I can easily access their assessments and things through there. So I don't print out a lot except for just my run sheet where I can take some quick notes if I need to. Some people will, advise to have lots of stuff printed out, but I tend to just not do that. Toggled between my tabs, make sure my tabs are set up neatly. If I'm seeing students from multiple courses or multiple subjects or classes or year groups sort of in one time, I'll do tab groups as well. So I might open, the Markbook, the Google Classroom, the something else, and then group those together as, year 8, year 7, year 12, whatever. Just so that, because sometimes the way that my interviews might work might mean I'm meeting with a year 11 parent in one slot, and then the next slot is year 7, and you sort of got to flick your mind back and forth. So that would be the main way that I feel like I'm how I come to my interviews prepared with bits and pieces. Sometimes if it's an early in the year interview, some of my colleagues, and I've done this as well, might just have a printout sheet that you can give to a parent, particularly with my subject, because it's a bit unfamiliar to some parents. So technology is not something that they've really done in primary school. I mean, I know there's science and technology, the syllabus, but it's not.
We're not working with wood and,
it's different. So sometimes if it's early in the year and if it's a year 7 or maybe a year 11 kind of interview, I might have a bit of a printout summary syllabus or, just topic structures for the year or key assessment dates or something like that, so that I feel like I have something I can give to them and I can talk through with the parent. But yeah, I try not to have too much stuff open, especially for a 5-minute interview. It's really just chatting through, general anecdotal things. I think you're right, is where it heads most of the time. And I just like to have my Markbook open and available in case the parents ask a specific question in relation to, their results. Also, it's worth noting, as we are referring to parent-teacher interviews, we're acknowledging both
carers,
biological and unbiological parents and carers and all sorts of people who are participating in these.
Yeah, I call them, what do I call them? Your parents, your mums and dads and grown-ups.
Yeah.
That's what I call it in kindergarten. I don't say that to the grown-ups, but, just try and do a catch-all. Whoever is looking after you and whoever we're meeting that night, that's who we're talking about.
Yeah. One thing I must also add that I would highly, highly recommend is just keep an extra top or an extra jumper or something on hand, because there have been times where I have had a lunchtime spillage error. And then you've got to front up to interviews at 3:15 and there's nothing you can do about the mango chicken on your white shirt.
Yeah, and our school very kindly always provides us Thai from the same Thai place. And it is real. I don't like Thai, but this is very good Thai. And yes, an accident is going to happen.
Yes.
It has not happened to me yet in 4, but there will be
a time.
There will be a time, just because I will do so many parent-teacher interviews.
It's a rite of passage.
So please, yes, take some wise advice from your Auntie Sierra and your Auntie Grace. Pack some extra clothes, please, and deodorant. You don't want to be nervous sweating.
And I actually keep a little toothbrush kit in my desk.
Ooh, yes.
So super helpful on days like this. You know when you go to the dentist and they'll often give you a little toothbrush kit?
Yeah.
So I just keep those at school.
Or like the travel sized or whatever.
Literally, yep. So you've got some floss in case you've still got some lunch in your teeth. Or, toothbrush, toothpaste, a couple of extra hair ties, all those sorts of things, just so you can feel refreshed and make sure that you're clean. There's nothing worse than feeling like you have to have conversations with adults who are more adults than you.
Yeah.
And look like a child because you've
got food all over you.
Food all over you.
Your hair's a mess.
It's just not what you want. So highly, highly recommend. I also really love this little idea from Bianca's book that I mentioned earlier. We're going to share a couple more of her strategies shortly. But what I really like, especially as a high school teacher, and this might not like really occur so much to you, Grace, because especially if you're in your classroom oozes a little bit of your own personality. When I'm sitting in a hall with like 60 other secondary teachers, a lot of the time, like the parents who are coming to my meeting don't even really know what I look like. Not all the time. Some of them we've definitely met multiple occasions, or I've taught this other children and things like that. But in Bianca's book, she suggests that she puts something that sort of shares a bit about her personality on her like little exam desk thing that she's having her interviews at. And I just actually really like that idea. I haven't tried it myself, except for maybe one of my coffee mugs. But yeah, I think that would actually be really cute and maybe start as a little bit of an icebreaker too. If you needed something to talk about, someone might ask you about it, or you could tell them a bit about yourself if it's the first time you're meeting them, and that might just be a good little segue, because I think it's also really good to remember that you're like a human as well. Yes, you're a professional, but you're like a relatable human being. And we know that like good relationships with parents is important for academic outcomes and for just like good cooperation. I heard the most fantastic line today from Matt Pittman, who I did have the pleasure of speaking with on an episode a couple of months ago now. And I've actually just enrolled in a free PD. Ooh, heads up if you're interested, that he has put together, which I can link in the show notes as well. But it is called Connecting with Parents, Building Sustainable Connection for Stronger Family-School Partnerships. And I thought, I'm going to do that because I'm not feeling very good at connecting with parents. And I've only watched the little intro video for the course so far. It's only 45 minutes of like course time. So that's pretty good. But he said one thing to remember is that parents are co-educators.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, I really like that. Like, I am an educator. I am a professional, but I really, in an ideal world, want to be able to collaborate with these other co-educators in my student's life.
Yes, and we both want what's best for the student.
Absolutely. So yeah, anyway, personality touches that might help you to just have some like human connection conversations with parents as well, I think is a cool idea.
Yeah, I mean, if you're like me, wear some fun earrings. Like, I don't know how many parents have commented on my coffee cup earrings that have love hearts on them.
Oh, yes. Fun earrings are good.
Yes. Yeah. You don't even have to talk about it, but just an acknowledgement that you have interests.
Yes.
And you are, not I don't know, just a blank piece of paper. I don't know. You're fun.
And I think that's the perfect thing. Let us continue. I would love for us to have a little bit. You alluded to some tricky conversations you've had before.
Yes.
In parent-teacher interviews.
Yes.
And I thought it would be good for us to talk a little bit more about those because they will inevitably happen if they haven't happened yet. And a tricky conversation doesn't always have to be, an insanely negative experience, but you do need to be sometimes mentally prepared, although sometimes they'll catch you off guard.
Like this one did.
Yeah. And sometimes things that you anticipate to be tricky conversations will just go beautifully, and things that you don't anticipate, will pop up. I remember my very first set of interviews, I was just terrified of having a meeting with a parent who I had had communication with via email previously that did not go particularly well. And I was so stressed about this interview because this was when we were doing it on Zoom and I was going to be like alone in a meeting. And I was really worried about, I don't know, if something came up, there would be no other staff member there to kind of observe at least or be prepared to defend me if I needed.
Yeah.
The conversation went swimmingly. There was
Of course it did.
absolutely nothing to be concerned about. But I was like so in knots about having this conversation. And so, yeah, I often find actually that it's the ones that you anticipate that will be really hard actually probably go okay. And then it's the ones that you don't that can sometimes really catch you off guard. This is where I think the book, Bianca's book on teaching, has some helpful insights that could be really useful tools kind of to just have up your sleeve, language to use. Have we all heard of the crap sandwich?
Yeah.
I think this is not like a new notion. One of the recommendations that is in Bianca's book is to make sure that we always share strengths and areas for improvement. She suggests having 2 strengths and 2 areas for improvement, but making sure that our areas for improvement are associated with quite specific strategies.
Which I really, really love, because when I receive feedback, it helps me to go, okay, instead of just spiraling into, the doom spiral of I'm the worst teacher ever because I received this feedback. It's like, okay, great, I've got steps. And I think, yeah, it just takes the stress away. I imagine from a parent's perspective, they might get quite worried about, oh, my child is, failing maths or failing D&T or, they're really struggling socially. But we can go, it's all right, we've thought about this and this is not the end of the world. Here are some strategies that are very specific. I've thought about it. Let's chat. How do you feel? We've got a way forward.
Yeah.
And then hopefully they will leave going, Mrs. Whittle, Miss Keane, they've got it all sorted.
I think you're right. I think we need specific strategies. Parents like to know practically what to do next. They don't want to just hear about a problem and hear about a problem. I think we need to come into this situation with a solution. Now, that doesn't have to be as time-consuming or as daunting as it sounds, because let's be real, most of the time, unless you've got quite a unique situation, the strategy that you're going to be recommending is the same, like for most people. Like when I have my year 7 or my year 11 interviews, like I'm probably picking an area for improvement that is like kind of across the board. Like everyone could be improving this aspect of their project management or whatever. And I would be framing it alongside the anecdotal evidence that I have of that child and how they are managing in that classroom context. But the reality is I know the strategies that I am recommending based on particular areas for improvement. And so you don't have to sit there and write like an individualized learning plan for every single person that comes to your interview and here's your strategies for how to improve. Like, you are a professional who can make recommendations based on the situation at hand, and a plan for moving forward. And it might be, tweaked and, modified from student to student. But the gist is, that and you can make those judgments, and it doesn't need to be a bucket load of extra work in preparation.
Yeah, but go, I'm the professional. I've thought about this. I've got it. This is what we're going to do.
Yes. And I love that sometimes we don't, a parent might raise something with you that maybe you weren't prepared for, or something that they're concerned about that you didn't know was a concern. And it's actually okay for you to not have an answer or a solution to that problem in the 5 or 10 minutes that you're seeing them right then and there. Like, it's very okay for you to acknowledge their concern and to, come back around to it. Let me have a think and I'll give you a call next week and we can, follow up. Like, to schedule follow-up chats, especially if you're sort of confronted with something that that has come up as a result of the conversation, is totally fine. Like, yes, we're professionals and yes, we know our stuff, but we don't have to have, a well-planned solution to every problem in that exact moment if you weren't expecting it.
Actually, that is a really good segue into my quick tangent about my slightly difficult parent, because I immediately just freaked out internally. I was like, crap, I'm a terrible teacher. I have been failing this student because I didn't notice that they were very capable. Like, I was just like, what have I been doing? What have I been doing? But I was able to, take a step back and go, okay, well, tell me what you are noticing at home. And they were able to tell me that. And then I was able to say, okay, one of the things we settled on in the moment was that the homework I was sending home was way too easy. And I said, how about we trial? I'll come up with something that's, just for this student, because this student is very capable and can read and write. And so we've trialed that. And I said, I'll get back to you I can't even remember what I said. I'll get back to you in a few weeks or whatever. And we can have a chat and see how that goes. But I was able to say, okay, here's what we're definitely going to do, because we've agreed that the homework is too easy, and the home readers, I'm going to chat to, I think I said I'll chat to our grade leader and see what we can do about some additional home readers. Maybe we can borrow some from year 1, which is what I've ended up doing. So I was able to action those things, but I was able to say to the parents, okay, this is where I'm going to focus on. Does this sound okay with you? And they were able to say, yep, great, that sounds awesome. And so I implemented those things. I've given this student some opportunities to do extended reading and writing tasks in class, and I'm now going to schedule that follow-up meeting because I think it's been long enough in the term now that hopefully, the parents have not complained, but I do want to not have them feel like they need to chase me and constantly bring things to my attention. But yeah, so that's kind of how I dealt with it. Like, there was no, open aggression. The vibe was uncomfortable, but I was able to remain professional and say, okay, well, I am a professional. I studied for this. What's in my brain that I know I can use?
Yep.
And was able to put things in place. And they seemed to leave quite, possibly a little happier than when they entered, because they'd been able to raise their concerns, and I'd been able to say, okay, yeah, great. That is really valid. Thank you for telling me.
Yeah.
Sorry, yes, you go.
No, I was just going to say that I think it sounds like you handled it really well, especially when something like that did catch you off guard. Yeah, and that a lot of the time they just want to be heard. And, that sometimes when parents come in voicing concerns like that, we actually just have to sit back and listen, not immediately have solutions that we can, that sometimes we just need to listen and absorb what they're saying. Sometimes they're not actually asking for a solution.
And parents are human, obviously, and they love their children, and they just want their children to be happy and successful like we would. If we were parents, we would want that as well. And we want these children who aren't our children, biologically, to be happy and successful. Yeah, and sometimes they really just, and my head of junior school has said this to our staff, sometimes you just need to listen and go, yeah, I hear you. Your concern is valid. And then they go, great, I feel so much better.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it takes possibly a little bit of experience to kind of discern when that may be. But we've practiced this actually in some of our staff meetings. We've practiced listening to listen and not just figure out what we're going to say next.
Yes.
And
that is so hard to do sometimes.
So hard.
And you can't propose a good solution if you haven't listened well. And yeah, like I said before, you don't have to know a perfect solution off the top of your head anyway. The one thing I would say is that whatever you say that you will do, you need to make sure that you do.
If you follow up, it just goes to show that you really have listened and you actually do care. So if we can just prove that we love them, which is my favorite part of the parent-teacher interviews, and I do say that to parents sometimes, if it is appropriate, to whatever the conversation is or whatever, I say, I love having these conversations because I love talking to the people who love this student, and I love talking about what we're doing. And sometimes it's felt appropriate to say that if the interview's gone particularly well or whatever. I think the parent will respond quite well to that, just to let them know we're actually on the same team.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be teacher versus parents, like
the co-educator thing.
We are co-educators, and I mean, teaching as a work of heart is a very cliche phrase, but it's true. And I think if you are able to show the parents that you really care for their child, even better if their child loves you, like the child of these parents that I had the not great conversation with was one of those children drawing love hearts around my name today. I was like, all right, well, that's good at least. They just want their kid to be happy and safe.
Yeah.
If I feel that way about my dog, I'm pretty sure parents of, human children feel even more strongly. And how can I blame them for coming on a little strong when it's their actual child and their child doesn't get a redo of life?
One other thing that I think is just really important to keep in mind, especially when you're trying to keep parents on side and helping them to feel heard and valued, is just about respecting their time. A lot of them have, structured their afternoons or their work days to be there at a particular time. And I know for me, I can have a tendency to run a few minutes late, and then it just domino effects really quite badly.
Like when you're waiting for the doctor and they're 45 minutes late and you're like, come on.
Yes.
Don't do that to your parents.
No. So I think, I might be seeing, say, 40 parents, or, having 40 interviews in sort of an evening session. And, that can just so easily blow out, even if each one takes, 1 or 2 minutes over. So again, another top tip from Bianca's book is to keep a timer on your desk. I have been in different school contexts where when I was a teacher's aide, the school I worked at actually had just a timer in the hall that made sure people sort of cycled through, and it was pretty obvious when everyone had to move on. That's not really the case where I am now. So if you know that you have a tendency to run over time, you might find it really helpful to say, once you greet a parent, hey, I'm just going to pop a timer on just so we can both keep track of the time here.
I do that exact thing, and every parent is really understanding because they were just waiting outside, and they're like, yeah, totally. We don't want to run over for everyone. And yeah, they understand. And what my head of junior school has told us as a staff is really helpful is just stand up, and maybe, because for me, I'm in a classroom, I can walk them to the door, and so I can keep talking, kind of wrap up. But if you're either they're going on or you're going on, you can just stand up, and that's a really obvious cue that, okay, I'm not going to immediately cut off my sentence, but we're going to have to wrap this up.
Yes, and it's like a greeting, like a farewell. I really, really like that.
Yeah.
I think the main thing I would say is seek the advice of your, executive or whoever is sort of in charge about what they would say is an appropriate approach. If they don't want you having, a physical timer on your desk, maybe you just have the timer on your laptop screen that just you can see, and then you just do the stand-up cue thing. I really like that idea. And in Bianca's book, she also mentions just at the end to suggest politely wrapping up and apologize, sort of oh, sorry that, sorry, that's the end of the time that we have now. And then you can schedule a follow-up chat if needed. But I feel like that's very rarely needed. It's probably more just you both just on for a chat, so you just keep going.
Yeah.
But if there's actually important stuff that you haven't had a chance to delve into, there's absolutely nothing wrong with saying, I would really love to chat about this further. Would it be okay if we schedule time for a chat next week or something like that?
And I had to do that last year.
Yeah.
I remember because it was about, there was a social issue on the playground, and I did have to say, because we were back to back, and I said, I'm so sorry, we actually don't have any more time, but can I email you or call you, or can we meet or whatever? And then that parent actually didn't end up like feeling like that was necessary.
Yeah.
And I was able to, resolve the issue in class, but the offer was still there, and they still felt heard and valued, like, oh, I'm not being cut off and they're never going to talk to me again. And the teacher just did their time and I'm ticked off.
Yeah. And so it's like keeping the channels of communication open. Like you say, I think a lot of them probably go, oh, no, that's not necessary or whatever. But it's just expressing that this is not the 1 10-minute slot that we have to speak to each other in the entire term or the entire semester. Like, and I think it's, again, that idea of building connections and building open pathways of communication. I would always, as much as I hate phone calls with parents, like there's actually nothing that makes me feel sicker than standing at the phone, psyching myself up to dial a phone number. Like it probably takes me about 20 minutes most of the time.
Yeah.
Like, I'll take myself to a quiet classroom.
Yes.
I'll like pace around for a little
Have
while.
a cry.
I'll write out my
back and
opening.
forth under the desk.
Type up an opening, like, so that I'm at least starting strong with a couple of dot points or what I might want. Like it, I need to psych myself up so much for these, but they usually go beautifully once you're actually in conversation with them, because often the fact that you're reaching out via a phone call reinforces the fact that you care, and again, like you say, validates the conversation if it's like a continuation, or if it's not a continuation, it's like it's usually like, even if it's a negative reason that you're calling, it signals like concern.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of parents actually respond to that beautifully. I would 100% say call, don't email. And if you are on the receiving end of an email from a parent that seems like it's even remotely raising a concern, I would acknowledge back with an email and ask if there's a suitable time you can call.
Yeah, my school has a specific policy of positive, you can email, negative, call.
Yeah.
Your school might have a different policy.
Yes, so it's important to be aware of that.
But we all know how just plain text on a page can be misconstrued.
Yes.
Even when you've agonized and ChatGPT'd the heck out of it and gone, how can I make this more professional and friendly, but also professional and correct? And,
Yes. And sometimes parents can be, more confident to say things that they wouldn't say to you in an email.
Yeah.
So, you've just got to have open pathways for communication. And I would highly recommend, if you need to wrap up an interview because of time constraints, do it, because it's kind and respectful to everybody else who you have to meet with later. And also, I mean, as a high school teacher, if I end up speaking to you for, say, 8 or 9 minutes instead of my designated 5, you might have just lost the first 3.5 minutes of your next interview with your next teacher. And if they're really good at sticking to time, that, you know what I mean? Like it actually
is a domino effect.
Has a domino effect beyond just me and my remaining interviews, but actually for the parents,
the whole system,
everybody else who's got other meetings to get to. So wrap it up because it's respectful and considerate, but keeping the channels of communication open, invitations for a call or a follow-up later, I think is just really, really wise.
You don't have to promise that to every single parent.
No,
but if
that's
it might be pertinent, it goes a long way. Before we come to the official end of this episode, I thought to recap, if you, I don't know, for some reason have scrolled all the way to the end, you've scrolled all the way to the end of this episode, could be bothered, you got to the too long didn't read part. I don't even know if that's still a thing on the internet, but I like it very much. Here is our TLDR, where each of us are just going to give you what we think is our number one, most important tip to help you at whatever stage of your career you're in, and not feel terrified of parent-teacher interviews. Sierra, do you have something that immediately comes to mind?
My number one, I think, strategy that I use, that was recommended to me by the school executive, I remember it was part of like our onboarding process when I started at this school that I am. We had to do like a module on parent-teacher interviews and how they sort of happen at our school. One of the things that I learnt from that I have tried really hard to apply is don't open with, so, do you have any questions? For a couple of reasons. One, because it can kind of give off that you're a bit unprepared and don't really have anything to say. At the same time, you don't want to like hog all the talking time. And we've just talked about how important it is to listen to our parents well. But I think opening with that question can kind of mean that you're giving all the reins over to the parent to control the interview. And so there should absolutely be an opportunity for them to raise anything. But I often start with, introducing myself if I haven't done that yet. I might give a little bit of an overview of where we're at in the subject. Obviously, it varies from age group to age group. And in my course, our students are actually part of the interview as well. So it's like parent-teacher student interviews. And so sometimes I might even open with, has Johnny told you much about what we've been doing in class lately? And actually, no. And actually ask the student to elaborate a little bit. And in doing so, then I feed in, oh yeah, this is going really well, or this is actually an area that I'd love to see some improvement or whatever. And I try and feed into the student's perception of the subject rather than me just blurting. And then after we've had a chance to chat about how little Johnny's going, then I might say to the parents, was there anything else that you guys really wanted to raise or had anything you wanted to ask about? And I think at that point I've been able to cover off the things that I think are important. And most of the time they say, oh, no, that's fine. We just wanted to see how he was going. And, it's lovely to meet you. And thanks so much. But it just means that you are the one that's dictating the flow of the conversation. And you're not right from the get-go, just handing the reins over and not knowing what to expect. And so I absolutely want to invite an opportunity for questions and concerns, but I tend to do that in the back half of the interview, and give myself an opportunity to present myself as the professional who knows their child first. And so that I think would be my very toppest tip for anyone about to embark on parent-teacher interviews this term.
Amazing. Thank you, Auntie Sierra. And now from your sage Auntie Grace, I think what helps me the most when I'm trying not to be defensive and stressed because I have imposter syndrome like we all do and think that I know nothing and these are parents and I'm just a little baby.
Literally.
Yes. Is to remember that we are on the same side and parents might come across as maybe too aggressive, or maybe they just come on really strong because they love their child. That's where we're all coming from. If I can just leave my pride at the door and remember that it's actually not about me. Like I want to say to all of my 6-year-olds, it's not about you. It's not about me. This parent just wants the best for their child and we are working together to do that. I need to stop assuming that they have huge issues with my teaching practice unless they use those exact specific words that I don't like it when you do this, which no parent has ever done to me yet. We are on the same side.
You actually have a shared interest.
We do.
Yeah.
We have common ground. Thank you. That's a great way to put it. So eloquent.
Thank you.
Yes. If you are an early career teacher and you've struggled with parent-teacher interviews in the past or you're really scared about doing your first ones, just remember you are on the same side.
Thank you so much for listening. If you have made it this far, even through everything, including the too long didn't read. Also, shout out to Bianca, who has no idea that I've referred to her book, but I will link it in the show notes if you want to read it. It's really fun to read. She's a fun presenter. She's got a fun personality, and yeah, she made such a difference for me as an early career teacher, when I was literally at a PD for early career teachers, was when I heard her speak. And she just has some fantastic, practical, intentional strategies and approaches to how she does her work that I think have enabled her to maintain such a passion for what she does.
Yeah.
So highly, highly recommend her book, and thankful to her for her tips and strategies that we have been able to share with you today.
As always, you can find us pretty much on any platform or Google or whatever as Teaching Together the podcast. Check out our website, which Sierra has worked really hard on. I can take zero credit aside from my beautiful face on the homepage. But Sierra has worked really hard. So peruse, grab a cup of tea, drink it while it's warm, and have a scroll through our website. Leave us a review. 5 stars will be really nice. And if you have any of your own parent-teacher hacks, share them and tag us, because we could benefit personally. But we would love to create a Teaching Together community where we just benefit from our collective wisdom. So please do that. And we will see you next time.
Bye.